Someone asks you how much you make. Your body freezes. Your throat tightens. You feel heat rising to your face. Why? It's just a question. Just numbers. But your nervous system treats it like a threat. Like someone just asked you to undress in public. You've probably noticed how it's easier to talk about almost anything else than money. Politics, childhood trauma, religion, mental health. But someone asks how much you pay in rent and something inside you shuts down. It's not shame about the number itself. It's deeper than that. It's older than that. And what this silence reveals about you is something no one ever taught you to see. Think about the last time money came up in conversation. Maybe a friend mentioned an investment they made. Or your family asked if you're finally saving. Or someone brought up salary in a casual way. You felt it, didn't you? That immediate tightness in your chest. A need to change the subject. To deflect with humor. To make a joke about being broke even if you're not. The body speaks before the mind can process what's happening. Because talking about money isn't talking about numbers in a bank account. It's talking about everything you haven't resolved yet about value, worthiness, safety, power, control, shame, fear. It's talking about who you think you are versus who you're afraid you really are. And there's a deep psychological reason why this discomfort settled in you. Actually, there are 5 reasons. And I'm going to walk you through each one because understanding them changes everything. Carl Jung said we carry not only our own wounds, but the unresolved wounds of previous generations. The things our parents couldn't heal, we inherit. The fears our grandparents buried, we feel in our bodies. And money? Money is where this screams the loudest. Money is the emotional inheritance no one talks about. Think about it. If your parents fought about money, voices raised in the kitchen while you pretended to sleep, you learned that talking about finances is dangerous. That money creates conflict. That bringing it up destroys peace. If they were silent about it, if bills were hidden and conversations happened behind closed doors, you learned that money is too shameful to be named. That good people don't discuss it. That asking about it makes you greedy or inappropriate. If they flaunted wealth or hid poverty, if they spent to prove status or saved out of terror, you absorbed that as truth about how things should be. You didn't choose this. You inherited an emotional relationship with money that isn't even yours. It was downloaded into your nervous system before you had language to question it. Half of American workers point to money as their biggest source of worry. 72% say financial health directly affects mental and emotional health. This isn't coincidence. This isn't individual failure. This is generational. This is collective. Jung called this a complex, an emotional knot that forms early, often before age 7, and silently governs your adult life. It's a cluster of memories, feelings, and beliefs that activate together. And when they activate, you don't think rationally. You react from a younger part of yourself that's still trying to survive. So when you feel uncomfortable talking about money, it's not just you in this moment. It's your mother's anxiety about never having enough. It's your father's shame about providing. It's your grandmother's fear of losing everything like she did during the Depression. It's the entire lineage speaking through you, trying to protect you from dangers that may not even exist anymore. But it doesn't stop there. There's something even more intimate happening. Something about the mask you wear. You're not failing by feeling this discomfort. You're carrying stories that were never yours to carry. And recognizing that is the first step toward putting them down. The persona is the mask you wear to be accepted in the world. Jung said we all develop one. We have to. It's how we function in society. At work, you're the competent one, the reliable one, the one who has it together. In your family, you might be the responsible one, the one everyone leans on, the successful one who made it out. Among friends, you're the cool one, the chill one, the one who's doing fine, always fine. But money unmasks you. Money reveals the gap between the image and the reality. When you talk about money, you reveal whether you're actually in control or just pretending to be. Whether you're afraid of not being enough. Whether the stability you project is real or performed. Whether the success you display is solid or fragile. And that's terrifying, because the persona isn't just a mask. It's protection. It's the version of you that gets loved, respected, hired, included. And if talking about money threatens that, your system will do anything to avoid it. Let me give you a visceral example. You go to dinner with friends. Everyone's doing well, or at least everyone seems to be. Someone suggests an expensive restaurant. You know it's outside your budget, but you don't say anything. Everyone orders expensive wine, appetizers, the special entree. You look at the menu. Your heart starts racing. You do the math in your head. You want to order something cheaper, maybe just water and a salad. But you know that will reveal something. It will crack the persona. It will show that you're not as financially comfortable as they think. So you order what everyone else orders. You laugh. You pretend it's effortless. You pay. You smile. And in the Uber ride home, alone in the dark, you pull up your bank statement and feel that heavy, sick feeling in your chest. That wasn't about the wine. That wasn't about the meal. That was about not being able to say this doesn't fit my budget right now without feeling like you're admitting failure. Because admitting that collapses the persona. It reveals that you're not who you've been pretending to be. And Jung said the more rigid the persona, the more fragile the real self behind it. The more energy you spend maintaining the image, the less energy you have for actual living. But there's an even more painful layer underneath. Something you've been avoiding for years. Keeping up appearances doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But it costs you the freedom to be real. And eventually, that cost becomes unbearable. Shame isn't guilt. This is important. Guilt says I did something wrong. I made a mistake. I can fix this. Shame says I am wrong. I am the mistake. I am fundamentally flawed. And money is where shame hides best, because money feels so objective, so measurable, so binary. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have enough, it must mean something about who you are. You earn too little? Shame of not being smart enough, not valuable enough, not worthy enough. You earn a lot? Shame of having more than others who work just as hard, maybe harder. Guilt about privilege you didn't earn. You're in debt? Shame of having failed at the most basic adult responsibility. Shame of being reckless, irresponsible, broken. You save too much? Shame of being stingy, selfish, unable to enjoy life. No matter the scenario, shame always finds a way in. It's the emotional tax on every financial reality. Jung called this the shadow. The part of you that you reject so deeply you can't even look at it directly. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's just the parts of yourself you were taught were unacceptable. And talking about money forces you to look at those parts. A woman told me she hid bank statements from her husband for 2 years. Not because she was spending recklessly. Not because she was hiding purchases. But because she was deeply ashamed of how little she earned compared to him. They both worked full-time. Both had demanding jobs. But his salary was triple hers. And every time she saw her paycheck, she felt smaller. Less valuable. Like she was failing at being an equal partner. So she hid the evidence. She stopped talking about work. She deflected questions about her career. And every time she hid, the shame grew. It became this silent, suffocating thing that sat between them at dinner, in bed, in every conversation about the future. Until one day in therapy she said it out loud. I'm ashamed of how little I make. And her husband looked at her, confused, and said, I never thought about it that way. I just thought we were building a life together. The shame wasn't in the number. It was in the belief she'd carried since childhood that her worth as a person, her value as a partner, depended on a number in an account. That's shadow. That's the part of you that absorbed a false belief and then spent years protecting it by never looking at it directly. And this leads us to something that controls everything underneath all of this. Fear. Feeling shame about money doesn't mean you failed. It means you were taught to measure your worth by the wrong thing. And now you get to learn a different measure. Money is power. And power is uncomfortable. This is something we don't talk about enough. Money gives you options. Freedom. The ability to say no. The ability to leave. The ability to choose. And if you admit you have money, you admit you have choices. And if you have choices, you can't hide behind "I have no option" anymore. You can't blame circumstances. You can't stay stuck and call it fate. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, requires you to take total responsibility for your life. Not blame. Responsibility. The ability to respond. And talking about money forces that responsibility into the light. Here's an example. You say, "I don't have money to invest in myself. I can't afford therapy, courses, coaching, anything that would actually help me grow." But if someone asks you how much you spent on takeout this month, on subscriptions you don't use, on things you bought to feel better for a moment, the discomfort appears. Because the truth is you have money. You're just not using it consciously. You're using it to avoid, to numb, to maintain the status quo. And admitting that means taking power over your choices. It means looking at the gap between what you say you value and what you actually spend on. It means stopping being a victim of circumstances and becoming the author of your life. And that's terrifying, because victims have no blame. Victims don't need to change. Victims can keep waiting for something external to solve the problem. A better job, a raise, partner, a windfall. But the person with power, the person who admits they have choices, they need to act. They need to change. They need to take risks. And what if you fail? What if you make the wrong choice? What if having power means you can't hide from your own potential anymore? That's the real fear. Not that you don't have enough, but that you might have more than you're willing to admit. And there's one last reason, the deepest of all. You're not lazy for avoiding this responsibility. You're not broken for staying stuck. You're protecting the version of yourself that doesn't yet know how to carry that much weight. And that protection made sense. But now it might be time to trust yourself with more. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. This is something you hear a lot, but most people don't understand what it really means. Money doesn't make you greedy. It reveals whether greed was already there. Money doesn't make you generous. It reveals whether generosity was already part of you. Money doesn't make you cruel or kind. It amplifies what was already present, just quieter, when resources were scarce. And that's why talking about it is so scary. Because when you talk about money, you're not talking about numbers. You're talking about your real priorities, not the ones you say you have. Your deep fears, not the ones you admit to. Your beliefs about worthiness, not the ones you preach. Money is the most honest mirror that exists. If you say you value health but spend zero on self-care, on real food, on movement, on rest, money reveals the truth. If you say you want freedom but spend everything maintaining appearances, impressing people who don't care, money shows the conflict. If you say you trust yourself but save every cent out of terror of the future, never enjoying the present, money exposes the fear. If you say you want to help others but hoard resources out of scarcity, money reveals the contradiction. And no one wants to be seen like that. No one wants to admit that their actions and their values don't align, that they're living in opposition to what they claim to believe. Jung said the greatest work of life is integrating the shadow, looking at the parts of yourself you reject, the parts you've hidden even from yourself, and bringing them back into the light. Not to judge them, not to fix them, but to see them, to understand them, to integrate them into the whole. And money? Money is where your shadow lives. It's where all the contradictions gather, all the fears, all the unhealed wounds, all the beliefs you inherited and never questioned. When you avoid talking about money, you're avoiding the mirror. Seeing these contradictions doesn't make you a hypocrite. It makes you human and aware, and that's already more than most people allow themselves to be. So what do you do with all this information? How do you move forward when you're carrying generational wounds, a rigid persona, deep shame, fear of power, and a shadow you've been running from for years? First, stop judging the discomfort. This is crucial. When the subject of money comes up and you feel that tension in your chest, that urge to flee, don't force it away. Don't shame yourself for feeling it. That's just adding shame on top of shame. Instead, feel it, notice it, get curious about it. Ask yourself, what is this showing me? What younger part of me is activated right now? What belief is being threatened? The discomfort isn't the problem. The discomfort is information. Second, start small conversations. You don't need to expose your entire financial life to everyone. You don't need to post your bank statement on social media, but test it. Talk to someone you trust, someone who's also doing their own inner work about a specific discomfort. Say, you know when you feel guilty spending money on yourself? Or do you also feel weird when someone asks how much you make? You'll realize you're not alone. You'll realize that everyone is carrying something, and that shame loses power when it's shared. When it's brought into the light and met with understanding instead of judgment, it starts to dissolve. Third, right? Jung used journals as a tool for shadow integration. He believed that writing bypasses the rational mind and lets the unconscious speak. Get a notebook. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Write at the top, when I think about money I feel, and then don't stop writing until the timer goes off. Don't edit. Don't judge. Just let it flow. Then do it again with I learned about money that, and again with I'm afraid of. You'll be surprised what surfaces. Beliefs you didn't know you had. Fears you've never named. Patterns you've been repeating without realizing. Fourth, integrate, don't eliminate. This is the Jungian approach. The goal isn't to overcome the discomfort. It isn't to become someone who never feels shame or fear about money. The goal is to integrate it, to understand that the discomfort exists for a reason, that it protected you at some point, that the shame kept you humble, that the fear kept you careful, that the persona kept you safe. And that now, as an adult with more resources and awareness, you can choose a new relationship with money. One that doesn't need masks. One that doesn't run from mirrors. One that can hold complexity and contradiction without collapsing. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be healed before you start. You just need to start looking. And that's already courage enough. That's already more than most people ever do. Talking about money is uncomfortable because money isn't about money. It never was. It's about everything you carry, everything you hide, everything you've been taught about your value in the world, everything you haven't had the courage to see yet. But here's the truth few people tell you, the truth that might actually set you free. The discomfort doesn't disappear when you get rich. It doesn't disappear when you pay off all your debts. It doesn't disappear when you finally make it, whatever that means. The discomfort disappears when you stop running from it. When you turn around and face it. When you look at the shadow and say, I see you. I understand why you're here. And you don't scare me anymore. Jung said the gold is buried in the shadow. And he was right. Because when you have the courage to look at what scares you about money, when you stop performing and start being real, you find much more than finances. You find parts of yourself that were waiting to be rescued. The part that rests without guilt. The part that exists without performing. The part that doesn't need to earn the right to take up space. You find the part of you that knows your worth isn't in your bank account. That knows you're valuable simply because you exist. That knows belonging doesn't require pretending. And that's the real wealth. That's what no amount of money can buy, but what every amount of money can reveal. If something in this video touched you, if you recognized a pattern, a wound, a truth that was hidden, leave one word in the comments. Just one word. Could be fear, shame, freedom, truth, shadow, mirror. Sometimes one word is all you need to start changing. One word is the crack that lets the light in. And if you want to continue this journey of deep self-knowledge through psychology and finance, if you want to keep looking at the mirrors instead of running from them, subscribe to the Shadow Dialogue. Because here we don't pretend money is just numbers. We don't offer quick fixes or motivational speeches. We look at what money really is. A mirror, a teacher, a doorway to everything you've been avoiding. And on the other side of that door, that's where you find yourself.